It's the return. I'm back from the dead. The prodigal son returns. Out of the shadows, I have emerged. Whatever saying you want to use to say it, I'm back. I took a couple weeks off because I had to get ready for finals. Got to get those A's. That's how I do it. I got the job done though, and now I'm back with the opinions you need to hear in the sports world. So we can start off this week in the return episode talking about the Cavs. If you didn't know, the Cavs have kind of just returned like I returned. They came back. They took a long series against the Pacers and followed it up with a sweep against the Raptors. Now, going into the playoffs, I don't remember if I talked about it, but I knew the Cavs were going to be in for a close series because the Pacers always play LeBron close. It doesn't really matter how far back you go. You can even go to the Miami days when Roy Hibbert was patrolling the paint and Lance Stevenson was blowing in LeBron's ear en route to, a tough 6-game series. Well, whatever it may be that they do it well. And they usually give LeBron trouble. And even last year, they gave him trouble as well. I mean, even though it was a sweep, the series was still decided by 14 points total. It wasn't a blowout by any means. They did get swept, and the Cavs were obviously the better team, but it wasn't very as lopsided as people may think. So this year, I wasn't too surprised to see that when the shots weren't falling, that the Pacers were able to get a couple wins, and I don't know how they were able to do it. Maybe pace of play, maybe defense, maybe it was just luck that everyone on the Cavs actually sucked, except for LeBron. That probably had a little bit to do with it. Maybe it could just be they know some secret game plan that everybody else doesn't know. And once they get better players, they'll be able to beat them. I don't know. Those are all possibilities. I don't think that there's any one real thing. I just think that the Pacers are a good young team, and they know how to play LeBron well, and they've known how to play him well for a while. Now, I don't know how long Nate McMillan's been coaching the Pacers. I think it's been like 3 or 4 years. I think he's been the coach for 3 or 4 years. I'm gonna look it up, see how long he's been the coach of the Pacers, and let me see here. Pacers coach. Pacers from... Oh, okay, so he was the coach in 2016 till now, so last 2 years ago. And he was an assistant in 2013. Makes sense. Yeah, so he's been in there for a while. So obviously he had something to do with the game plan they had in the series when he was in Miami, which makes sense. Obviously they knew something that other teams don't know. Maybe it'll take Brad Stevens to figure it out. That would be my best guess, because Brad Stevens is, in my opinion, the best coach in the NBA right now, even better than Popovich. I don't really like Popovich that much anymore. I think he's grouchy and old and isn't adapting to the times and is pushing away his best player and is kind of annoying in the media. So not my favorite. But Brad Stevens, on the other hand, like that guy, he's really good. Anyways, so before this, or right after during the Pacers series, all the people were on their podium saying this is the beginning of the end of the LeBron era. There is no longer a guaranteed finals trip, yada yada, this and that. You were wrong, and I was right. If I would have made a show, you would have heard it. I was predicting it. I don't know if anybody follows me on Twitter, they would have seen it. I called it. LeBron kind of always owns the Raptors. He always plays close with the Pacers. I mean, it was kind of just a perfect storm, to be honest, and could have been part of LeBron's plan in all honesty, because maybe he wanted to play the Raptors early on. Maybe he wanted to get the easy second round win because he knows he owns them. I don't know. It's a possibility. I think that the media always overreacts over everything, so anything you see by them is always exaggerated tenfold for what it actually is. At the beginning of the series, I said LeBron and the Cavs, it'll go 5 games, or sweep depending on how the first game goes. And in the first game, LeBron went out and he went Kali Ma mode. From Indiana Jones, he just reached in, ripped out his heart, and showed it to him. And that's what happened. he kind of owned them. They were up by, 14 at the half or at the end of the first quarter. And then after that, they just got owned. Ever since, I'd say, the beginning of the end for the Raptors was the beginning of the second quarter in that first game. That was the beginning of the end for the Raptors. That's when DeFrozen came out to play. It was expected, though. I mean, LeBron, he really owns the Raptors. This series, I think, proved it. He owned them before. Now they started calling it LeBronto. They called it, what did they say? Oh yeah, LeBrontosaurus. Just stuff like that. He now owns the souls, the collective souls of all the Raptors and all the Raptors fans, and he keeps them in a little bottle that he puts next to his MVP trophies and his championship rings. Keeps that all on a mantle in his house, and he's got it's like the little butterfly, like, when you see in the TV or the cartoons, they catch the butterfly and they put the little piece of tape and they write on it. That's what LeBron did to the Raptors souls. He just put it in the glass jar with the lid, put the piece of masking tape on it, and wrote Raptors souls, and that's that's what he has on his mantle. It's really domination on a different level, though. In all seriousness, it seriously seems like the Raptors are legitimately scared when they have to play LeBron. Like, Lowry and DeRozan, just for example, Lowry and DeRozan, they combined for the same exact stats as LeBron had just by himself. I think that shows what it's all about. And that's partially because DeRozan turned into DeFrozen and Kyle Lowry had a couple big games, but either way, those are your two best players. How are you going to have the same stats as one guy? Granted, the one guy is the GOAT, is the best player there is one of the best athletes there is. So, can't really take that away from LeBron. But if you're those two guys, come on, you're supposed to be the stars of your team. What are you doing? DeFrozen, it's really... in the first round he was really good, and then he comes to play LeBron. I think DeFrozen really only comes out when he has to see LeBron. It's like, put it this way. DeRozan is like the little elementary school kid, the little wimpy elementary school kid, and LeBron's like the neighborhood bully. And every time DeRozan sees LeBron, he freezes, he gets scared, and he runs away. And then he gets sat on the bench. And then he doesn't make any threes either. But that's part of him getting scared, him not making threes. Sitting on the bench is him kind of just running away involuntarily. It was inevitable. It happened, but that brings me to another point, actually. Shaq and Charles Barkley were talking about it on TNT tonight or whatever, or NBA on TNT. And I thought it was a pretty good argument. I don't know. I thought both of them had good points. That you can't bench your best player even if he's playing really bad. Shaq said, "No, you can. He was playing terrible. You should bench him." And I can see that side of it, but also I can see Charles Barkley's side of the argument where he's saying, don't bench your best player. You don't want to disrespect him and ruin the relationship and all this stuff. I can see both sides of it. Another part of Charles Barkley's argument could be that he wants to, that you want to try to get him going as much as possible because, you're really not going to win without DeRozan going. And I think that's obvious because that's what happened. You don't lose by 30 points with DeRozan going hard. So I can see both sides of that argument, but I really think that LeBron owns DeFrozen, and it's just another level of domination. But speaking of DeFrozen, I kind of want to talk about how LeBron James kind of morphed into the most clutch player of all time. And it's weird because he used to be called the Frozen One. Similar to DeFrozen, the Frozen One a name. It came from his nickname, the Chosen One. They changed it to the Frozen One because he would always freeze up in the fourth quarter and he wouldn't really do much. And he would never make that late game shot. But now it seems like LeBron basically switched the narrative, and now it's almost like expected that he does make all those shots, and he kind of does. It's weird. It doesn't matter how hard those shots are to make, he just makes them. And he kind of has morphed into one of the most clutch players there is. I think it's pretty cool because I think now not only are you seeing the best player ever, but you're seeing the most clutch player ever. I don't know a player who's more clutch. I mean, Kobe and MJ and Reggie Miller is another good one. Ray Allen's a good one. But LeBron already has more combined buzzer beaters than MJ and Kobe combined. So I don't know what to say about that. Some people are like, oh, well, it's because LeBron's in a situation where he has to hit a buzzer beater and they weren't. Well, no, that's not true. And also, LeBron's not the only one on the team. So he's just doing what he is put in a position to do. He has to make that final shot. He does it. Kobe and MJ, I mean, they did it, but not as frequently as LeBron can do it. And I don't know. I'm just saying. But I think it's just interesting because if you think back in recent memory, there's tons of shots he's hit. He hit 2 against the Raptors. I'm pretty sure he hit 1. Yeah, he did. Hit 1 against the Pacers. Hit 1 against when was the last one? Did he? I don't know if he had a buzzer beater last playoffs, but I remember the year before he had that big one against the Bulls. That was another good one. He's had a lot in recent memory that I can think of in the playoffs, at least. I mean, I can't remember all the ones he's had in the regular season or anything like that because regular season basketball is kind of a joke at this point. They need to shorten the season, like I said. 55 games is what you need, but they will never do that, and people are going to continue not to watch. And also, when LeBron leaves, people are going to continue not to watch. But that's a different story for a different day, kids. But moving on to the next round of the playoffs, I want to talk about Golden State versus Houston. I think that'll be a really good series. I think both of the teams coming in really hot. I think the regular season matchups between them, they were pretty close for the most part. The Rockets won 2 games and the Warriors won 1. The Rockets won the first game. They came back, was opening day. They came back and they didn't even have Chris Paul in the second half, I remember. And so basically James Harden just took over that first game and brought him back from a 17-point deficit. And then the second game, they were in Houston and the Warriors won by 10, I think. The Warriors won 117-107, if I'm right. If not, it's something like that. So they kind of had a handle on that game. And then the game after that, I think it could have been back at Golden State, but the Rockets beat them 116-108. So 8-point victory. So these games, I mean, it was a good matchup between them. They weren't close because in series like this between 2 3-point shooting teams, there's always going to be a big gap because if one team's not hitting and another is, it's going to be a long night. And there's going to be a high score for one team and a low score for the other, obviously. But I think these teams have similar firepower. They have similar makeup. And in all honesty, like I said before in an earlier episode, I think the Rockets were built to take out the Warriors. I think they have really good defenders. They have the personnel to shut down everyone but KD. Everyone on their team has a matchup has a guy who can shut down one of the stars except KD. I think KD is going to be the key to this series. If he's able to go off consistently, like I don't think he's been able to, or well, he has been able to, but not at a extremely high level. Well, that's not true either. That was kind of dumb. I take it back. Forget you heard that. I don't know if he'll be able to outduel James Harden, put it that way. I think James Harden offensively now, if he's able to play at peak performance, because in the playoffs, I mean, there's been some games where he hasn't been like top James Harden. So if he's able to be top James Harden, I think the Rockets have enough supporting defense where it'll essentially just come down to a James Harden versus Kevin Durant duel, and whoever's better, their team will come out on top. Because I think CP3 can defend Steph Curry, especially coming off a knee injury. It'll be even easier. So I think CP3 can take on Curry. I think they have guys like PJ Tucker who can defend Klay. They have Trevor Ariza who can defend Klay. They have James Harden. I don't know who he really matches up against. I mean, he can defend Klay when he's in, obviously, because they're the same position, and I don't think he's going to be guarding a bigger guy. So whenever he's in, I mean, I guess he can guard him, and if he gives effort, I mean, it'll be a little easier on him. But then there's Mbah Moute and Trevor Ariza can both combine to guard Kevin Durant. Like, I mean, those guys can switch off. I mean, Moute is a good defender, and he's a good three hitter, so he'll be really important to the series. Draymond Green, I think they have guys like Clint Capella. Mbah Moute can guard him too. So they've got a lot of options. Oh, and I forgot about Gerald Green. Gerald Green can match up against Klay Thompson too. So they have a lot of options, the Rockets do. The Rockets, they don't have as many stars, but they're a lot deeper. Their bench, I trust a lot more than the Golden State Warriors bench. So it'll honestly come down to if they can lock down at least, I'd say if they're able to lock down 2 of the big 4 that the Warriors have, they'll be able to win the series, because it'll essentially come down to whose big 2 are better. It'll come down to, are Chris Paul and James Harden better than pick 2 of the guys who they want to let go. You know, it'd probably be a mixture of KD and someone else. I'd probably say, I don't know, I'd probably just say KD and Draymond, because I don't think you can let Klay Thompson or Steph Curry get hot, because you can see what Klay Thompson does. He was the one reason that the Warriors were able to come back against the Thunder in that series when they had the really good season, and they came when it should have been Cavs Thunder final, and the Thunder blew the 3-1 lead right before the Warriors blew the 3-1 lead. So you know what Klay can do. He can change a game in one quarter. So I think they might need to put most of their attention on Curry and Klay. I mean, they could try to put most of their attention on Curry and KD, but I don't know. I don't think I'd risk it letting Klay get hot, because that would be a big mistake if he's able to come back and beat you. So yeah, I think the Rockets, they match up well. I think they take game 1. If they take game 2, then it'll be really, really interesting. But I think they split at home. I think they split on the road again. They go back home, starting the 1-1-1. I think they go back there 2-2, and I think it ends up being, if I had to predict a 6-game series, I think it would be. I think the Rockets win in 6. I think they're able to get it done, especially if they win in the first 2 home games. If they're able to win those, then it's definitely going to be a 6. I think if it goes to 7, though, I think the Warriors are they have too much playoff experience to lose Game 7 against a team like the Rockets, who don't have that much experience, especially with a coach like D'Antoni, who doesn't really coach defense that well. So I don't think a Game 7 bodes well for the Rockets. I think if they're able to win, if they have a chance to win in 6 and they don't do it, they can't get it done, then I think they blew it. I really think they need to get it done in 6 or less, because the Game 7 does not bode well. It's the same thing. It's a really similar thing to what I said when the Cavs were down 3-1. I said the Cavs' toughest game of the series is going to be Game 6. If they're able to get it to 3-3, then the series is over, because there's no way LeBron will lose a Game 7. And lo and behold, what happened? So I think that the Warriors, they wouldn't lose a Game 7. I think their intestinal fortitude is high enough to where they won't be affected by the lights of a Game 7, and the Rockets might be, because this is Chris Paul's first Western Conference final in his long career. So we'll see what happens. I think that'll be a really interesting series. I think that'll be fun to watch. It'll be the first Rockets game I've really, I've really watched. I mean, not Rockets, the first Warriors game I've really watched this playoff season, and I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be a good series. I mean, the only reason you don't watch the Warriors is because there's no real competition. It's not fun to watch. When you already know the outcome, it's not fun. So that's why I don't think anybody really watches the Warriors, and I mean that's why I don't go out of my way to watch them, especially because the games are late. I'd rather watch the D-backs. So that being said, I want to move on. I think the next series is going to be, the Eastern Conference series is going to be the Cavs versus the Celtics. The Celtics are up 3-1. I mean, the game's going on right now. I'm just not watching it. I can look up the score right now. Let's see. Celtics game. Yeah, so looking up the score right now. Oh, game over. Yeah, so it's going to be Celtics Cavs. The Celtics just won 114-112. It looked like a good game. Too bad I had to prep for the podcast. Prep for the pod, boys. So, yeah, the Cavs versus Celtics, predicted that. I thought the Celtics from the beginning would do the gentleman's sweep, beat them in 5, and they did. I think the reason mostly for that wasn't because the Celtics are gentlemanly or anything like that. I think it's because Philly's got some good young players. They've got a couple good vets, and they weren't going to be humiliated. They weren't going to get swept like the Raptors were. I think they had more in their tank to give and all that other good stuff. But one of the reasons why I thought it was really silly that people were saying the 76ers were going to go to the finals, I thought it was dumb, first of all. I thought it was dumb because when you watch that Miami series, they weren't like, the scores were far apart, but it was really close. The games were really close into like the final minutes of the fourth quarter. They didn't really pull away until like 4 minutes left, so I didn't see them beating a really good team by a lot. I thought any game they played after that would be close. Plus, most of the reason they were winning those games was because Ersan Ilyasova and Marco Bellinelli were going off. Okay, and no legitimate team in the NBA playoffs is going to get cooked by Marco Bellinelli and Ersan Ilyasova. It's just not happening. Okay, and they weren't able to cook against the Celtics, and look what happened. The 76ers are a good team, don't get me wrong, but Ben Simmons can't shoot. People want to compare him to LeBron. He's not. He's a lower level, lower tier. I think he's obviously closer to Magic Johnson, not the same level yet, obviously, but skill set, if I were to compare, that's who I would compare him to. He can't shoot yet. I don't know if he'll be able to shoot, but he's a good point guard. He can distribute, he can defend, he can do all the, everything but put up a shot. So I think they have a bright future because I think Ben Simmons is really good and I think Joel Embiid's really good. I think they need another player in there. The process. They got to get Markelle Fultz to boom in his second year because that's what the process is about. You're not supposed to play your first year. When they draft you, you just sit out the whole first year. Most of the time they were injured. Markelle Fultz was just really bad, so I guess they just wanted to sit him out and hope that he somehow gained experience and skill by osmosis. So hopefully that worked out for him. Anyways, the Cavs versus the Celtics, I think this will be I say it'll be a 5-game series. I think Brad Stevens is a good enough coach to get this Celtics team one win. I think the Cavs win one at the Celtics. I think they'll win the first game at the Celtics. They'll go into Cleveland tied 1-1. They'll win the second, or they'll win both at home. Then they'll win the final game on the road at Boston. I don't really think Boston's much of a challenge. I think Boston's a really good young team. I think they have some good young players. I think Brad Stevens is the best coach in the NBA, but he provides a lot of fool's gold in some of these players. Terry Rozier, it's the Brad Stevens effect. Okay, Terry Rozier is not a top-tier point guard, just like Isaiah Thomas was not a top-tier point guard, and that, I will get into in a minute, is a reason why I don't think the Celtics are going to be all that much better next year. But let me finish this point. So Terry Rozier is not a top-tier point guard. It's just the Brad Stevens effect. There's no way he averages 20 what is it, 24 plus points on another NBA team? No way it happens. Brad Stevens just maximizes the point guards he has. I think Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are some really good wings. I think they developed really nicely, and I think they're going to be really good next year. But outside of that, who do they really have? They have Marcus Morris. Okay, he's a good piece. He can defend. He can shoot a little bit. Outside of that, they have Al Horford. What is he, a 4 or a 5? I mean, I guess that's good. He was really clutch in the last few games, so I can't really hate on him too much, but I don't know if Al Horford will be able to, and it sounds weird, but I don't know if he'll be able to get past Tristan Thompson. I mean, the way that the Cavs were playing defense in the last series against the Raptors is really, it should honestly make any Cavs fan really optimistic. I think that points to good things to come because the effort they gave was totally different than what it looked like against the Pacers. So I think there's stuff to look forward to there. So I just don't know if the Celtics have the manpower. I think the Cavs have more experience, tons more experience in the playoffs. I mean, they have guys like Marcus Smart. He's okay. I mean, his hands still hurt. Can't really shoot threes. He can defend a little. So what if he shuts down? What is he gonna do? Shut down George Hill or somebody? Give me a break. Do the Cavs really care about that? No. So I think the Cavs are able to get it done in 5. Could even be a sweep depending on how bad game 1 is. But I respect Brad Stevens enough to give him 1 game. I think he's able to coach him into 1 game. And that's partially because I think Ty Lue isn't all that great either. So Brad Stevens will be able to outcoach Ty Lue for 1 game. Anyways, back to my bigger point on the Celtics. I think that the Celtics next year are not going to be that much better than like the way people think. People think the Celtics are going to be like the next Warriors team. I'd pump the brakes a little bit, okay? I'd pump the brakes a tiny bit, okay? Kyrie Irving, how much better is Kyrie Irving going to be able to play than the way Terry Rozier is playing right now? Is he going to put up like 40 points? What is he going to do that's going to be that much better than what Rozier is doing right now? Maybe Kyrie can do it with more consistency, obviously, because he's a really good player. But on an average basis, per game basis, if Terry Rozier keeps playing like this, how much more value is Kyrie Irving really going to give you in the long run? Not much. Not much. Maybe he'll open up some more lanes for other players, but that stuff's already happening. And Gordon Hayward comes back, cool. Where are you going to play him? You have Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. I think they're really, really good. And by the way they're progressing next year, who's to say they both won't be better than Gordon Hayward? Gordon Hayward's a really good player, don't get me wrong, but is he all that much better than the ceiling of what Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown have shown? I don't know. I really don't know. I think next year it'll really show. I think people are going to go bad on Brad Stevens next year. I think they really will. I think people are going to start to hate on him because they won't be that much better. I think they'll win about 60 to 63 games, 64 games maybe. And that's obviously really good. And they'll get the first seed and all that. Maybe not. They'll get around there though. Because I think they'll have some injuries too. So they'll have some depth. But I think one big storyline that will pop up next year will be people going bad on Brad Stevens because they won't be as good as people would have hoped. And I think that there might be some problems that arise in the locker room over playing time and over who gets how many shots. I think that'll be an issue too. Because I think Kyrie might get jealous of Terry Rozier. Because there's no way, if any GM, I'll put it this way, if any GM trades for Terry Rozier now, fire them immediately. The second they even ask if they should trade for him, fire him. Because if you don't have Brad Stevens, that's not going to work. Okay? And I think it showed in Isaiah Thomas, and I think it showed in every other trade the Celtics have made. I think if any team, and it sounds bad, but I think if any team makes a trade with the Celtics this year or next year, you should really look at firing that GM because that GM is going to get boned. I think Danny Ainge is just some kind of magician. He knows some kind of dark magic that steals the value out of every trade. He just sucks value out of all the teams, and he sends out just like golden. He like gets gold paper and wraps it around a dog turd and sends it out. I don't know how he does it, but he does. And if anybody makes a trade with him, they're gonna lose pretty bad. I don't even think you can name the last trade the Celtics have lost. I can't think of one off the top of my head. I don't think it's happening. So don't make a trade for Terry Rozier. I don't think any GM would be dumb enough to make that trade at this point. So Terry Rozier and Kyrie fighting for minutes and points and all this, because Terry Rozier has honestly looked really, really good. And I'd take him at a lower price point than Kyrie is at, because it's similar production. So, like I said, it's a toss-up. I don't know how much more value you're getting out of Kyrie. Then there's going to be issues between Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Gordon Hayward. I don't know that Gordon Hayward's the type of guy who will voice it, but don't be surprised if he isn't starting to start the season next year. Because the way that Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are playing, I mean, it's hard to sit him down. And who knows how Gordon Hayward's going to come back next season from injury. And he might get mad about that too. And if one of the guys gets bumped by Gordon Hayward and he starts playing poorly and they don't bench him, then I think the guy who gets bumped is going to get really mad. So there could be issues in the locker room. So that's something to watch out for next year. People might go bad on him and they might start losing some games, but best case scenario I predict for them will be 65 wins, which is obviously great. But worst case scenario could honestly be around 40s, mid 40s, high 40s. It's a possibility because the reasons I gave before, and you never know what'll happen. Could be injuries again. Wouldn't surprise me with Kyrie. Gordon Hayward's not really injury prone, but Kyrie, he's been known to get hurt. Al Horford's been known to get hurt sometimes, so it wouldn't surprise me. Put it that way. Anyways, moving off of basketball for today. Going into some NFL draft breakdown. I don't know how many people were as hyped for the NFL draft as I was, but I was really hyped. So, to start, I want to talk about the Packers, obviously, my team. I think they did pretty well. I think they had one of the best drafts out of any of the teams, and I'm not just saying that because I'm a homer. I'll start by saying I really hated what they did with the trade back at first. Because during the draft, leading up to the draft, I really wanted the Packers to draft Tremaine Edmonds. And I thought he was like this transformative player. And he could be for the defense. I mean, he could be, but we didn't get him. And I was really mad. And it was because I went into the draft all emotional about a player. And that's another lesson to learn. When you're trying to make big decisions, don't let emotion get into it. Look at the facts. Facts matter, not feelings. Facts, they don't care about your feelings, in the wise words of Ben Shapiro. And the Packers' facts did not care about my feelings at all. And when I got really mad during the draft, they still didn't care. So the trade back, I thought it was bad, but you move back, I think it was 4 spots because they ended up moving back and then trading back up. So they move back 4 spots in total, and they get a first for next year, and they get a third. So really wasn't all that bad of a trade in the end. So they ended up getting, and another thing I didn't really like Jair Alexander that much as a prospect, but they got Josh Jackson in the second. So I kind of did this thing in my head where I switched it around, and I was like, oh, the Packers drafted Josh Jackson in the first and Jair Alexander in the second. And I kind of just did that in my head to make myself feel better, and it kind of worked. So if you were mad about that, do it too. Switch your team's picks up in your head. It'll make you feel a little bit better, even though it's the same thing and it doesn't matter. So outside of the first 2 picks, I think Josh Jackson really improves their defense. I think Jair Alexander, if they keep him in the slot, because he's a small guy, I think that improves their defense. I think next year they go into the season with a really good, DB room. People saying Tramon Williams is going to start. Do we really want 36-year-old Tramon Williams starting at corner in the NFL today? I don't know. I think he's better as a he's better as a locker room guy, kind of the way Kendrick Perkins is for the Cavs. I think he's better as a locker room guy for the young new corner talent that we have. And to be honest, I don't really care if they get burnt at first. I think that's what we've been doing with our corners the past few years. But also, Mike Pettin, I think his scheme is good enough to where they won't get burnt. Where Dom Capers was just old and decrepit scheme that was farting out dust. That's how old that scheme was. So, back to the point, I think that next year our corners are going to look really good. You'll have Kevin King and Josh Jackson on the outside, and then you have Alexander on the inside. I think that's a pretty good corner. That's a pretty good corner stable. And then you got Clinton Dix and Josh Jackson backing up on the safeties. That's a pretty good that's a pretty good secondary. So I don't know. I think it's really something to look at. Outside of that, they went and got in the third round, they got Oren Burks. At first, I was like, who is this? I don't like this pick. But then I saw he's kind of like a safety linebacker hybrid, more of a linebacker than a safety. Similar, basically just a bigger version of Josh Jackson. So he's not as fast, but he's a little bit bigger. So I think he'll be a good guy to put in the middle of the defense at one of the middle linebacker spots. He'll battle Blake Martinez and Jake Ryan for starting time, which I think will be good. Then in the fourth round, I think our fourth round pick, I really liked it. I think Jamon Moore. At first I was like, who's Jamon Moore and all this, but then I started watching some of the tape, and he's really, really good. You see the catches he makes. The catches isn't what makes me happy. It excites me. It's the run after catch. When he gets the ball and you watch him run, he's such an explosive, strong runner. The way he it's weird. You have to watch it. His strides and his ability to break through tackles it's similar to the way a running back would do it. The way he runs is just really, really hard. So I like that pick. Further on, one of my favorite picks of the draft, J.K. Scott, the punter out of Alabama. I think having a good punter, people may laugh and they may go, oh, that was a waste of a draft pick. No, it wasn't. There's a reason you draft a punter that early, and it's because he's really good. And I think the Packers got a really good punter. J.K. Scott was one of the big reasons that Alabama was able to stay in a lot of those playoff games. Against Georgia, you think they're still in the game if J.K. Scott doesn't pin them deep multiple times? No way. People are like, oh, Justin Vogel had a good year last year. Yeah, he's not good compared to J.K. Scott. J.K. Scott blows him out of the water by far. He has a boot. And he's pretty fast, too, and he's huge. He's like 6'6". So I like that pick. J.K. Scott's a really good pick. He can help with the defense, getting us field position when our offense sputters. So I really like that pick. I think that we made a typical O-line pick. We got that guy out of Washington State, Cole Madison. Not really a surprising pick. We like converting tackles to guards and using them there. So that pick didn't really surprise me either. And then we got the, I think it was Stanford D lineman. I'm pretty sure. Not 100% sure, but I'm still pretty sure that it was Stanford D lineman, D end. We got him, and we got two other receivers. We got one from USF. Scandling something. I can't remember his full name. Stop having so many names, and I can remember him. He's out of USF. He looked really good. I think he's like a really good outside threat. And then the person most people were most hyped about was Equanimeous St. Brown, and I was like, why? I saw he's big, he's fast, and then I go and look at his tape. His tape was bad. You look at it, literally every catch he made was a body catch. He caught with his hands maybe like twice. Every other catch, body catch. It was kind of ridiculous. In the NFL, that's not going to fly. You can't body catch and expect to hold on to a pass when you're getting hit by someone. It was just dumb. I don't think he makes the roster. I think that Jamon Moore definitely makes the roster, and I think he fights for starting time. That's how good I think he is. Scandling, it's a possibility he makes the roster. Battles for some special team spots, maybe some reps on some of the plays as like a depth guy. I could see it. but I don't think Equanimous St. Brown, or however you say his name, really makes that much of a difference, because I don't think he's all that good. So overall, I really like the Packers drafts, especially with that first round pick they get next year. I think that helps them a lot next year, especially because I've been reading a little bit, obviously, with them having 2 picks, and people say it's supposed to be a really stacked defensive draft. So that could help us out on that front. I think one thing they could have done better was go after a lineman, because this O-line's draft was supposed to be one of the most deep, and I think it was. I think there's a lot of guys in there you could have got in the later rounds to give you a lot of value. I think there's guys like Jamarco Jones, different guys like that, Tyrell Crosby, who were there later, who you could have got a lot of value on later in the rounds. So we could have done that differently, but, overall, I like the draft. And next year, we'll be able to load up on a defensive player or get a lineman or something that we really need, or whatever. It remains to be seen. We don't even know what number picks we're going to have next year. So I got to chill out on that. I'm looking too far ahead. I'm just excited. I love the draft. I love the NFL. There's nothing that makes me more happy than some good football. And we're still a good amount away from some good football. So I will be sad for a little bit longer, but no worries. It will be back. So other teams I think who had a really good draft, the Cardinals, the Raiders, and the Jaguars. So to start, I think the Cardinals, they did a really good job in their first 2 rounds. They got Josh Rosen and Christian Kirk. Those are some pretty good moves. You get Josh Rosen behind Sam Bradford for a couple of games, maybe in the season. Hey, that's pretty good. I mean, there's no way that Josh Rosen won't get any playing time this year, because he'll easily beat out Mike Glennon. Mike Glennon's a big giraffe turd. That's what he is. He's not good. So he'll easily beat out Mike Glennon. And then I think he'll just be back up behind Sam Bradford while he learns the system. I think Sam Bradford's a good quarterback, but the inevitable will happen, and he will get hurt at some point. So Josh Rosen will come in, and he'll make some passes. Christian Kirk, I like him. Arizona player, even though he did betray ASU and not go there. It's okay. He's on the Cardinals now. He's a good guy to match up. One thing we will have to see, though, is he's mostly a slot guy, and the Cardinals have been playing Fitzgerald in the slot for a while now, and he's been really, really good in the slot too. So we'll see what they do there. They could put him on the outside a little bit, but he is mostly a slot guy. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with Christian Kirk. But outside of that, I didn't see any other game-changing picks that the Cardinals made. I didn't see any big names, any really good value picks they got. They mostly just got depth for the most part outside of those 2 guys, but I think those 2 first picks were really the highlight of the draft for them. Unlike some other teams who were able to load up late, like the Raiders and the Bengals really loaded up late. I think the Bengals had one of the better drafts, but the Raiders, on to them next. I really liked the Raiders draft. Some people hated it, but I think they won day 3 by a mile. 2 players they got, Arden Key and Maurice Hurst, they have day 1 talent, but they just slipped because of some. Arden Key had motor concerns, like people were concerned with his commitment to football. I think that's a real issue. Obviously, I'm not going to say it's not, but part of that could be maybe he didn't want to play in college anymore. Maybe he didn't want to risk getting hurt and risk losing the contract. I don't know. You never know what's going on. But if the Raiders are able to get him to play at peak performance, they just got a really good player. And then Maurice Hurst, he has a heart problem, but you see the way he played at Michigan. I mean, what is the heart problem doing for him? It's not making him any worse. If he's willing to sign a release or something like that, saying that it's not the team's fault if he dies, I mean, why not let him play? He wants to. And he's really, really talented. So I think that's a really big mess up by a lot of the teams passing up on him. I think, but here's the thing: he does only fit into a 4-3. So the Raiders do get a good 4-3 D tackle. So I think the Raiders made really, really good moves on day 3. Getting those two guys, Maurice Hurst and Arden Key, will boost their D-line. They'll have Khalil Mack and Arden Key on the outside. They'll have Maurice Hurst and whoever else they decide needs to man the middle because they don't have anyone good. Put it that way. Who do they have? Sean Ellis? Sean Ellis is like 100 years old, isn't he? I don't remember who they have in the middle, but I'm pretty sure it was Sean Ellis. So, not very good. Not very good at all. The Jaguars, I like what they did. I think the Jaguars won day 1 and 2. Close, at least. They got, first round, they got Taven Bryan. Now, they didn't really need a D lineman, but the value at that pick, people compared Taven Bryan to someone like a J.J. Watt. He just needs to put it all together. Like, sometimes they say he'll disappear, but he's got the skill set to be able to, perform like a J.J. Watt. So I could see that being a really, really good pick in the end. So I like that pick. Day 2, who'd they go out and get? DJ Chark and Ronnie Harrison. DJ Chark, first of all, I thought he was one of the better receivers in the draft. And I thought if you were going to get a guy, DJ Chark was one of the guys to get. I think he played at LSU, so he obviously didn't have that great a production, but I think his route running and honestly the LSU receiver line really speaks for itself. Just like I think the Clemson receiver line speaks for itself. There's like a lot of no-name guys, making it big out of Clemson. Like you had DeAndre Hopkins. He was outshined by Sammy Watkins. So you see stuff like that, and then you got Martavis Bryant, who nobody really knew that much about coming into the NFL. So you got guys like that making it big, and then LSU you got Jarvis Landry, OBJ, etc., etc. So you got these big name guys who are able to, produce. I think it says something about the receiver line. It could be someone with the receiver coach who just knows what he's doing, the receiver scout who knows what he's doing. But it's not their fault. A lot of those teams just don't have very good quarterbacks who can get them the ball. So I think DJ Chark's a really good receiver. I think the way he catches, the way he runs, very, very good, talented player. So I think they got a steal there. And then 3rd round, getting Ronnie Harrison. He's literally just like a harder-hitting Barry Church. So they got 3 really good players a lot of people ranked highly. They had Ronnie Harrison as one of the top safeties. He fell a little bit. Oh well, better luck for the Jaguars. They really made out like bandits after the first 3 days. Or after the first 2 days. So, really like the Jaguars draft. Next, I like the Buccaneers draft. I thought the Bucs had a really good draft too. Or not a really good draft, one of the better ones. They now have one of the scarier D-lines in the NFL. They got, on the edge, they got Jason Pierre-Paul, and they got Vinny Curry. And then they got in the middle, they got Vita Vea, Bo Allen, Mitch Unrein. They got a couple other guys in the middle. Oh, what am I thinking? They got Vita Vea and Gerald McCoy in the middle. So they got Jason Pierre-Paul, Vita Vea, Gerald McCoy, Vinny Curry. Tell me how you're going to stop that. Good luck. That's going to be a tough D-line to stop. And they're following kind of like the Eagles blueprint, getting good depth. I think they need more edge depth. They need more pass rushing depth. They got good depth in the middle. They got tons of middle guys. They got Bo Allen. They got Vita Vea. They got Mitch Unrein. They got Gerald McCoy. They got a ton of guys in the middle. They just need edge guys, more depth there. I think they got Noah Spence on the outside. They got a couple good guys. So their D-line's looking really good. Then they backed it up. They improved at corner. They got MJ Stewart and Carlton Davis, who are they were really good value picks for where they got them. They were 2 of the better corners in the draft. They had some flaws, so that's why they fell. Like Carlton Davis, like some of his, he was a good man corner, but he had no zone skill really. So, and also in man, sometimes he got lost a little bit. So that's why. So I think working with a corners coach in the NFL will really change what they're able to do. And that's why I think those picks were really good for them. They also went and got, I don't know what it is with the Buccaneers and getting D3 offensive linemen, but they do. And it works out. Like they got Ali Marpet, sorry. And this year they got Alex Kappa, I think that's his name. So they got a guard. people wanted them to draft another, like, an O-lineman. I thought they would, if they would have been able to get Quentin Nelson, they would have made out like bandits then. But they weren't able to. They didn't really need tackles in the draft anyway, because they have DeMar Dotson and Donovan Smith, who I think are really good, above average NFL tackles. So they were good on that front. They just needed interior depth, and I think they got a little bit of it. So their line will be like, they'll have Donovan Smith, Alex Kappa, center, I don't know who they'll play at center, Evan Dietrich Smith, I think. So they'll have Donovan Smith, Alex Kappa, Evan Smith, Ali Marpet, DeMar Dotson. Not terrible. Pretty good. It's not like Chargers, Cowboys, Steelers level, but it's definitely up there. So I think they'll definitely be better. Oh, and then in the second round, I can't forget, they had a ton of second round picks. They got Ronald Jones. I like that pick for them. He's more of a mixture of like Charles Sims. He's basically like a harder running Charles Sims. So they have Charles Sims who's a receiving back, but Ronald Jones runs a little harder than Charles Sims. So he's able to break more tackles. I thought if they were able to get Saquon Barkley, I don't know, the Giants, they drafted him because they thought he wasn't going to be there later. So the Buccaneers really missed out, because I think if the Giants didn't draft him, he would have fell to the Buccaneers. So the Bucs kind of lost out, but either way, I think they made out pretty well in this draft. Now, a couple of teams who I think did really poorly in their draft, I'd have to go Seahawks, Steelers, and Saints. And now I'm not going to count the teams who didn't have first-round picks like a weirdo. I know some weirdos like to be like, oh, well, the Texans didn't have a first-round pick. Their draft grade is a D-. Well, dude, they're working with what they got. They went and got Deshaun Watson last year. You think that's worth the first round this year? I'd say so. So I think grading them poorly because they didn't have a first-round pick is dumb. So I'd go, yeah, like I said, Seahawks, Steelers, Saints. I think the Steelers, kind of dumb pick getting Terrell Edmunds. A lot of people were like, oh, did they think he got Tremaine Edmunds instead? I mean, I kind of think that might have been true. Why else would they draft Terrell Edmunds? I mean, they see something everyone else doesn't, and they're NFL, front office people, and I'm not. So what do I know? For all I know, he'll turn out. But other than that, I mean, some of their other picks just didn't make sense. Why did they get a wide receiver? They have Antonio Brown and Juju Smith. They got Mason Rudolph. I get that. They need backup for Ben Roethlisberger. Ben Roethlisberger obviously doesn't like that. So I don't know. I think it'll just create a weird dynamic on that team now. I mean, outside of that, they didn't really address any other defensive problems they had, like inside linebacker. So I think that draft was kind of a fail for them. I mean, for all we know, they could pan out and be really good players. But face value for right now, they didn't really address the needs they had, and I think they were one of the losers of the draft. So, also, side note, Terrell Edmunds and Tremaine Edmunds look exactly alike. I know they're brothers, but it's weird how much alike they look. But anyways, Seahawks. What are you doing, Seahawks? Did you not learn your lesson the past 3 years? You need O-linemen. You're not going to be able to run the ball. I don't care if you have a great running back. You're not going to be able to run the ball until you get an O-line. They have literally the worst O-line. One of the worst, at least. Their O-line is terrible. You have to protect Russell Wilson. How are you going to protect him with a running back who can barely pass block? Give me a break. What a dumb first pick. I mean, I like Rashad Penny. I think he's really good, but can't really pass block. He's not going to be able to run anywhere because the line's really bad. So I didn't understand that pick. Did not understand it at all. Outside of that, they went and got more pieces that they already have. They have guys to play inside, outside backer. Why'd you get Shaquem Griffin other than the fact that his brother plays on the team? Dumb move. Why'd you get these other defensive guys? I mean, I think Rasheem Griffin, defensive end, USC, I think he was a pretty good pick. He can move inside and outside. So I don't think that was a terrible pick, but with the other guys that were there, I mean, what are you doing? I just thought that the draft was kind of dumb for the Seahawks. I didn't see what their plan was. I mean, sorry guys. Worst case scenario, you trade back into the second again and you get Harold Landry before the Titans are able to swoop him up. He'd fit your system. He's a 4-3 D end. I don't understand. That's another team I think did really well. The Titans, they got a couple good players, but they traded all their draft capital, which is why I don't see them being in the top of the draft. They only had like 4 picks, so maybe they're going quality over quantity. I don't know, but I just didn't think they added that much more value to their team in the draft. So last team I think did really poorly was the Saints. The Saints kind of traded the house to go and get Marcus Davenport. Marcus Davenport was falling. People had him going a little higher, but the Saints came, swooped him up, saved the day for him. I think giving up a first next year is dumb for a pass rusher you kind of need, kind of not really. He's really raw, and I don't know that you have, maybe you have somebody who's really good who can develop, and we'll see. But I think you kind of made a mistake there going after him, but one man's trash is another man's treasure. And the Packers' treasure was the Saints' trash in next year's first-round pick. So hopefully the Saints lose out. Sorry, Saints fans. So the Packers can get that get that high draft pick. Anyways, next is still some NFL draft stuff, by the way. Is Baker Mayfield and some other QB fits for the draft. So Baker Mayfield, I was not predicting him to go number 1 overall to the Browns, mostly because of selfish reasons. I didn't want him to go to the Browns. I wanted him to go to a better team where he would have an ability to prosper, but those dreams were crushed, and Baker Mayfield got drafted by the Browns first. And now he's going to sit behind Tyrod Taylor, but in the end, I don't know that it's that it's all that bad of a deal for him, because now he's got Josh Gordon, Corey Coleman, Jarvis Landry, David Njoku, Duke Johnson, Carlos Hyde, who else they get? Nick Chubb. I mean, he's got a stable of dudes in there. I mean, if they just get that O-line right, I mean, they still have a pretty good O-line. They just got to get a couple more guys in there. They drafted that one guy, Austin Corbett, out of Nevada. So they got Bitonio and Corbett both out of Nevada. Not terrible. Not terrible, not great either, but, not terrible. I think you give Baker a year to understand the system. You give him another year's worth of offensive line players added. You get another year's worth of defensive guys added. I think they got better. Denzel Ward definitely fit a need for them, but I think the fit will be pretty good as long as they work with Baker Mayfield and give him time to learn the system and not just throw him to the wolves. I think he needs to learn more about the plays, the play calling, yada yada, before he goes in and is able to make as big of a difference as he can. Outside of that, like I said earlier, I really like Josh Rosen of the Cardinals. I think that's one of the better landing spots because you got a guy like Larry Fitzgerald. You got pretty good offensive coordinator in Mike McCoy. He's worked with a lot of quarterbacks, so I like those moves. Who else? Sam Darnold kind of lucked out not going to the Browns. Went to the Jets, but for all we know, that's not that much better. We saw what happened last time the Jets drafted a USC quarterback, so we'll see what goes on next season. I think he'll probably start pretty early in the season. I don't think the Jets fans will let him go on losing with Josh McCown at the helm, or Teddy Bridgewater at the helm. I think they end up cutting one of the quarterbacks they have because they got tons of them right now. So I think if he sits for more than half the season, he'll be all right. He'll definitely make a lot of mistakes in his first year. It'll be somewhat similar to Jared Goff's first year, minus the awful, terrible, horrible piece of garbage coach Jeff Fisher. I think they'll be able to do it. I think Sam Darnold just has to progress and get used to the NFL game. Last big guy, Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen, not the last guy. There's one more after this. Josh Allen went to the Bills. Bills move. Didn't like him in the top 5. Bills got him at 12. not terrible at 12. Still doesn't make him a good quarterback, even if you draft him at 12. He's a big arm guy, not very accurate. To be honest, I think they'll be better off with A.J. McCarron. So they honestly kind of wasted a draft pick. But what else could they do? They needed a quarterback, and they think Josh Allen can do that. I don't think he can do that. He's not very accurate, but maybe that's not what they need out of a quarterback. Maybe Buffalo has a new secret system where the quarterback doesn't actually have to complete passes to be good. Hopefully that's what they have in store. Doubt it, though, because I don't think any team has that system. I don't think that system exists. So we'll see. But most likely will be bad. And lastly, Lamar Jackson to the Ravens. Now, this move was kind of interesting. It made me think, why would the Ravens, who just picked up RG3, draft Lamar Jackson to sit behind Joe Flacco? Joe Flacco is kind of the opposite of RG3 in Lamar Jackson. Doesn't make any sense. But then it got me thinking. I think that the Ravens might be cutting Joe Flacco. It's a definite possibility. They owe him a lot of money. And even if they get stuck with the money, they'd be stuck with the money either way. And if they put RG3 in front, and RG3 is, holding the reins, Lamar Jackson can learn a little bit from that and kind of learn. Because RG3 at this point, I think, has learned when he has to slide and what throws he should and shouldn't make. Maybe he's not that great anymore after the knee injury, whatever, but I think that's a good move. It would be a better move to have Lamar Jackson watch RG3 start rather than watch Joe Flacco start. Watching Joe Flacco start for either of those quarterbacks doesn't make any sense at all. And I think it honestly degresses the quarterback's value. So if the Ravens are smart, which I don't know if they are, Ozzie Newsome, their GM, just drafts Alabama players left and right. But I don't know. If they're smart, they'll let RG3 start and let Lamar Jackson watch RG3 and get him ready for the future. So, next, one of the last topics we got for today, D-backs. D-backs. I don't know, I'm not going to do it, but D-backs, first place still. And this is the surprising thing, too. Oh, wait, first. Still haven't lost a series yet. Still have not lost a series yet. That's 12 series in. Hey guys, give us our credit. Oh no, 13 series now, because this is only a 2-game series against the Dodgers, so 13 series straight, no losses. Hey, give us the credit we deserve. Either way, or don't, I don't really care. We're just going to beat you in the playoffs anyway. We got that playoff experience last year. We're getting there, okay? So, but this is surprising though that we're able to do this right now. And I think it shows a lot about our team and about our manager, but everyone's either hurt or slumping. I mean, if you're not A.J. Pollock or Patrick Corbin, what have you been doing for the D-backs? Just about nothing. Goldie has been in a really, really bad slump. Robbie Ray hurt. Taijuan Walker hurt. Jake Lamb hurt. Steven Souza just back off the IR. And the D-backs have been doing this without a lot of those guys. Watch out, MLB. I think Torey Lovullo is the Brad Stevens of the MLB. He just makes every player better. He just knows how to use every guy, and that's what he does. It's really, really fun to watch because I like when my teams win. No, but it's really interesting to see because some of these players you wouldn't even think about being all that great, but on this team they're really good. Like Descalso, clutch master. Ahmed, defensive wizard, now he's hitting dingers. A.J. Pollock, back from the graves. Last year, started to go to the graves. This year, back. Dingers. 12 of them. Already. So, really high hopes for the D-backs at this point. And really low hopes and kind of depressing looking into the offseason at us signing A.J. Pollock and Patrick Corbin. Don't see that happening at this point, sadly. Unless we can somehow trade away Zach Greinke and or Yasmani Tomas. Kind of makes me depressed, but, everyone's got to live with a little depression in life. I hope the D-backs can keep winning, though. I love seeing this. I think they will keep winning because they're a really good team. Their bullpen, insane. Starting pitching, been really good. This guy they brought up, Matt Cook, really good player. He's been playing out of his mind. Outduels Justin Verlander and Clayton Kershaw. Come on, man. That's crazy, especially as a rookie. He could win Rookie of the Year. I mean, if he keeps pitching this way. I don't see anyone else who could. Well, there are a couple guys. There's the guy on the Padres. There's a couple guys. Acuna. There's a couple of guys. But, I mean, if he keeps doing this, how can you take it away from him? Either way, I really like the D-backs look for the future. In fact, the D-backs game is on now, and I'm missing it. So once this is over, once I'm done, I'm going to go watch that, and next week I'll tell you all about it, or all about the upcoming games too. So last topic before I get into some picks. Why is the UFC deciding to kill itself? What I mean by that is they just made a deal with ESPN, and ESPN has this new ESPN Plus thing. And what do you get on ESPN Plus? You don't get any sports shows. You don't get anything. You get some left-wing ESPN SJW content. And that's it. Just a bunch of garbage. Oh, and they just bought UFC and they're going to put it on there. So you get a mixture of left-wing garbage and UFC. Does that mix? No. Do people want to buy ESPN Plus? No. What's the UFC thinking? Hey, we want to grow our sport. We want to do better for the fighters. So what we're going to do is put them on a platform that no one's going to watch. I can guarantee you less people will watch the fights on ESPN Plus than will watch on Fight Pass. I can guarantee it. Because at least on Fight Pass you get all the... Oh, okay, well, I think actually they're giving ESPN Plus some of the Fight Pass... or access to the Fight Pass, volumes of fights, the library of fights they have. I mean, either way, I'm not buying ESPN Plus. It's garbage. ESPN already charges you $12.99 a month extra for their package. It's ridiculous. I don't want to give any more money to ESPN. I don't like the stuff they put out. I think they're very low effort. They paid too much for the sports they have, and the voices they have on there kind of suck, frankly. I mean, their morning shows suck. Day shows suck. Night shows, Sports Center's all right now. Now that they've undid Woke Center, now their Sports Center's all right. Outside of that, the only reason to have ESPN anymore is NBA playoff games and college football games. Outside of that, no point in having them. Because ESPN just sucks now. It sucks. They went total left wing. At least Fox Sports, when they go left wing, it's for like 10 minutes, and then they go back to being a normal sports channel. And you can turn it off for the 10 minutes and get away from it. Other than that, on ESPN, you can't. You turn it off for 10 minutes, come back, same thing. It's all day. It's an all day thing. It's ridiculous. But I think the UFC is really killing itself. They're making it really hard to be a fan of the UFC. Because how am I supposed to subscribe to all these things and get all these things and find all the dates for all these fights? The UFC is just making it harder to find their fights and harder to watch. Sure, the ESPN is going to overpay them just like they overpay for everything else. So they're going to do that just because more money. If you want to grow the sport, that's such a short-term play, it's not even funny. That's total short-term. Long-term, it's going to kill you. You're going to get even less money now for your company in the future, or for your TV rights in the future. What are you doing? It's just ridiculous. I don't understand it. They'll have some big fights on ESPN, I bet, but it's not going to make up for it. You have all these fights on Fox or FS1 where people can get to them easily, and then you're going to go from that to putting it on ESPN Plus. Give me a break, dude. At least they didn't sell all their TV rights to ESPN. It was only like half or something, but still, that's just ridiculous. Oh, and Dana White gave up the Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender series to ESPN Plus. Dude, what are you doing? Why would you sell that? You own... Sometimes, dude, I just wonder what they're doing. I guess, you got to do... some people think you got to grab the money while it's there, so I guess that's what they're doing. Dana White can always come up with something else. He's done it multiple times now. Tough, Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender, even though it wasn't that big. It was one of the main reasons to get Fight Pass, so selling it is a really dumb idea. Anyways, speaking of dumb things the UFC's been doing, UFC 224. Hey, make a better card. This is possibly one of the worst UFC cards I've seen in a while, or all time. Really bad UFC card. Really, really bad. Main event, Amanda Nunes versus Raquel Pennington. Hey, what am I going to do with that? Oh, I want to watch 9-6 Raquel Pennington versus Amanda Nunes. So I just get to watch Amanda Nunes TKO a girl in like a minute and a half. No thanks. I mean, Amanda Nunes is at that third title defense spot at this point, so maybe she'll lose her title too, I guess. I don't know. Doesn't entice me at all. Amanda Nunes, not a personality I care about. It's not like I dislike Amanda Nunes, but I don't like her. It's like the maximum neutral. Like, you can't get any more neutral. Like, I do not care at all. There's no more, like, the amount of care could not be any less. So, dumb to make her a main event. It makes me want to buy it. Not at all. Next fight, Souza versus Gaston. That's a good fight. Sure, I'd like to watch that. Put it on a UFC fight night, dude. Head that with that. I mean, why don't they just make it a big Fox fight? Just a Channel 10 one. If you pay $60 for this, you're getting ripped off. Just saying. Don't care how good the fights are. You're getting ripped off. Next, Dern versus Cooper. Obviously, Mackenzie Dern is fun to watch, but she's not all that great. All she does is jiu-jitsu, and she almost got beat her last fight. So it'll be interesting to see how much she's progressed, and it'll be interesting to see that storyline play out, but putting her again on this, it's not like it's a big draw. It's not like she's some tactician that's really fun to watch. It's not like she's this big personality yet. I like her. I think she can become one, but yet, I don't know. Lineker versus Kelleher, that's a cool fight. I mean, it should be a banger. Obviously, they're going to go all out. Might end in a KO. I'm obviously going to give my picks in a minute. I'm just breaking down this card and telling you how bad it is right now. Belfort versus Machida. Hey, how about this fight 10 years ago? Give me this fight 10 years ago, all over it. Give me this fight now. Hey, what are you doing? They're both 40. They're 40. What? Why? I don't want to watch them. They're too old. They'll knock each other out with one. Honestly, if they both knocked each other out at the same time, that would be worth it. If I could pay $60 to see them knock each other out at the same time, that would be worth it. If that doesn't happen, fight card's not worth it. Outside of that, I mean, the prelims suck. No one knows who any of these people are. Olenek versus Albini. Those are the only two guys I know. Olenek was the one guy who did the Ezekiel choke. Got the first Ezekiel choke in the UFC. Leites. I think that's Alves versus Aliev. Leites versus Hermanson. Oh, let's see. Click on this fight. Oh, yeah, Thales Leites. I've heard of him before. Jack Hermanson. All right. So, yeah, nothing very good. Nothing very good. If you want to bet on it, though, I can tell you those picks. If you don't know why you'd want to bet on it, but if you do, let me tell you my picks. So, right now, Amanda Nunes, this is using Bovada Sportsbook. Amanda Nunes minus 900, Raquel Pennington plus 550. And for those who don't know what that means, minus 900 means you have to bet $900 just to win 100. So Amanda Nunes is a huge favorite. Raquel Pennington plus 550, meaning you bet $100, win 550. So I mean, that's a good bet if you think Raquel Pennington's tough. Make that bet. Maybe she can outlast Amanda Nunes. Make that bet and win $550 on your $100 bet. That's a good option. Bet $10, win $55. Not bad. So that's always an option, but if you want to make the right pick, go Amanda Nunes. I think she'll beat Raquel Pennington. She's a really good fighter. And I don't think Raquel Pennington really stands a chance. But if she does, I'd be surprised, and that'd be interesting. That would bring some semblance of interest to the women's 135 division. Next is Jacare Souza versus Kelvin Gastelum. Jacare is minus 150 and Gastelum's plus 120. See, this matchup's interesting. Gastelum's a smaller 185er, and Jacare, he's not big, he's not small. I'd say he's in the middle size range for 185ers, but their styles are kind of opposite. Kelvin Gastelum's all about the stand-up, and Souza's all about the ground game. But I don't know. I think Kelvin Gastelum will be able to get the knockout. I think his movement and his hand speed, similar to what Robert Whittaker was able to do to Souza, I think it'll end up being a second-round KO. I think Gastelum's got the movement. I think he's got the hand speed to be able to take out a guy like Souza. And his Gastelum's ground game isn't that bad. I think he'll be able to stop the takedown, but if he does get on the ground, it could end up being a submission. But most likely, would say it would be a TKO second round by Gastelum. Next, Amanda Cooper plus 195 against Mackenzie Dern minus 250. This fight's interesting. I think Mackenzie Dern will win. She's the favorite because Mackenzie Dern's the new hot thing and everybody wants to put money on her. So that's why the betting line is that much. Honestly, if it was more unbiased, because people can sway the betting lines if you didn't know. If a lot of money comes in on one guy, they can't keep odds really high for somebody. So say somebody comes in as a plus like 600 and people flood the market on the plus 600 bet. They have to lower the odds because they can't pay out if that person ends up winning. So that's why the odds are this big. People are obviously putting a lot of money on Mackenzie Dern, so they're going to make her a bigger favorite, so they have to pay out less money if she wins. So Mackenzie Dern minus 250, I like that. I think she'll win. If it was more unbiased, it would probably be pick'em, but I like Mackenzie Dern to win. I think she could get a finish this fight. I think it's possible. Based on her last fight, she was really close to getting a finish her last fight, so this fight, I think she'll be able to get it done. She'll get the finish and get another W. Next, John Lineker minus 250 versus Brian Kelleher plus 195. This fight's really good. I think both of these guys are really good fighters, but I think John Lineker's just a little bit better. He's got just a little bit more power, so I would take him. So far, I got 3 favorites, 1 underdog. Not terrible, but yeah, give me John Lineker by knockout. And then next, Vitor Belfort versus Lyoto Machida. Wow, Lyoto Machida is actually minus 260 favorite. You got Vitor plus 200, Lyoto minus 260. I would honestly take Vitor plus 200 on this one. That's a good bet. Honestly, if you want to do that, that would probably be my favorite bet of the night. Vitor plus 200. You could win some good money on that because I don't know that Lyoto Machida is all that great anymore, but neither is Vitor. So you could go either way. I think if you want to make money, you bet on Vitor because they've got honestly an even chance to win. So those are my picks for the UFC. I can open up the betting lines. I don't remember for what the lines for the Rockets versus Warriors game was, but I will look it up right now. It says Vegas favors the Warriors to win against the Rockets, but the Rockets are, let's see, Warriors opened as minus 185 favorites to win a best of 7 series against Houston. Houston opened up plus 155. Houston is a 2-point favorite in the first game. Okay, so Houston is plus 2 going into the first game. Interesting. So they're favored in the first game, but they're favored in the first game, but dogs to win the series. Interesting. Yeah, I'd take the Rockets plus 2. I think they'll definitely cover because usually when 2 3-point shooting teams go head to head, it's never 1 point. It's just usually 5 or more because by the end of the game, there's so many threes that have been hit, the deficit's going to be big. So I always go 3. If there's a 2-point favorite, I always say that's fair enough and say they'd win by 3. So take the Rockets plus 3. I think that's a good bet. Or +2. That's a good. Or -2. Sorry. Take the Rockets -2. That's a good bet. And then I think the over/under was something like 222. I wouldn't bet the over. It's hard to bet that one. I don't really like over and unders. So plus 222 or I can't do it. I'm fading. -2 for the Rockets. Take them. As for the Cavs versus Celtics, I would say the Cavs are probably favorites, but it is in Boston, so I wonder. I can't find any betting odds for the Cavs Celtics yet. So bad luck there. Better luck next time. Oh, wait. Let's see. Opening. Okay, sorry about that. I was just looking up the odds for the Pac-12 over/under wins, but I couldn't find it. I could only find the futures, and futures kind of suck. But if you like ASU's plus 30,000 on the futures. So, hey, you want a quick way to make $30,000? Bet 100 on ASU to win the Natty. Not very likely, but that's it. Next week there'll probably be the over/under wins for college football, and I'll break that down and get into whatever other topics there are in the week. So appreciate you listening. If you liked it, leave a like, subscribe, share it. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your mom, tell your grandma, tell your grandpappy, tell your sister. Don't care. Watch. All right. Well, catch you guys next week. Peace.